honey, I'm listening to you. I do this shit. You know, the last time I did this shit when I did it with
No.
you. When I did
Seriously?
it with you, that was the
5 years?
last time. 5 years ago. Nobody
We
wants to
are.
look at me. You're the only person who wants to look at me.
I,
Nobody wants to
that's
fucking
not
talk to
true.
me.
No, that's not true. That's
You're
not
the only
true.
person who wants to talk to me about anything. Nobody wants to
We
talk to
are
me.
on. We are talking right now with Robert Kidney of the legendary band 156075, the Numbers Band. Robert, thank you so much for taking time and talking here.
You're the guy, not me. This is the deal. I really appreciate it.
Now, listen, you are celebrating your 55th anniversary as a band. Is that really true?
Yes, 55 years.
How did that happen?
Well over half a century. That's the way I like to put it. It's a lot scarier. 55 is a number.
It's just a number. It's a number. You guys are as vital as ever. You've been drawing crowds for the entire time you've been around. You're still an important part of the scene here locally, and you've made some huge strides nationally, internationally as well. I'm trying to think of another band in the area that's been around since 1969 like you guys. Is there anyone else that's who's on the scene then that's still on the scene now? I don't think so.
Well, I don't really pay that much attention, but I believe that the First Light still plays, of course.
Oh yeah.
You know, so and there are other bands, but I think the difference is we play all year long.
Yeah.
And we work at least once a month, which isn't bad for 77. And we're still writing new songs and new music and making new music.
That is fabulous. That's so great to hear. Your first gigs were, I believe, at the Cove in 1970.
True.
Do you have an estimate in your head of how many gigs you have played in your career? Any rough idea?
I know who does. The gentleman sitting next to me.
About 6,000.
He says 6,000.
About 6,000.
And we're hearing from Jason Pruffer here, who's an author and rock historian. And yeah, you know, I have been fascinated, I have to tell you, with what I believe was your first actual release, Jimmy Bell's Still in Town, which was a live album that, do I have this right? That you were opening for Bob Marley and the Wailers at the Agora in Cleveland?
Yes.
And that's where that was recorded?
Yes. Yes.
It feels, I want to hear the story, but it feels like a manifesto to me. It feels like, and I think to other people, that what you were laying down in those grooves was something vital, something important, something other people hadn't said in that way. Is that how you felt that night? I understand you got a bad astrology reading, and you said,
"Yeah, man, yeah, that's my favorite story." No, I mean, I set out. I'm sorry, I set out to do something that was unique and not and original, but unique. You know what I mean? And so, mainly because the woman I was living with at the time was like, you know, asking me when I was going to make a contribution.
To the rent.
No, you brat. No, man. To music.
To music?
She was a painter and wonderful woman. And so then I got started. I had written some original material, but it was, you know, like blues type songs. But so I set out to do something that would be really distinct and unique, and did it. But, you know, it was a giant mistake because everybody said, "What the fuck is this?" Basically, including the program director of WMMS. They didn't know what to do with it. They were going to get behind it, but then after they heard it, they went, "We can't do this." So that's okay.
you set out to write original music, and it turns out it was too original.
Yeah, it was a lot more than that. I mean, there wasn't anything you could get a handle on except possibly the drive.
Jimmy Bell tells this woman late into the night.
Which still takes the people to hear us after all these years.
David Frick of Rolling Stone said, whenever I get easy, settled ideas about blues and chaos, raw power, and the true price of independent rock and roll spirit, I can go to the Numbers Band, to the live manic rhythm and bravado of Jimmy Bell Still in Town. They set me straight. That was pretty cool.
That's nice. That's beautiful.
Right?
Oh yeah. He's I met him, and he's a wonderful person.
Yeah. He's a fan. You've got a lot of fans here. Start back in the early days, because you obviously influenced the sound that you have comes from Delta blues, but you were infusing it with soul and hard rock and Latin and jazz, even punk, which you have a history of founding.
Absolutely.
And, really Robert Christgau, again, to quote another rock critic and historian, in the Village Voice in 1978, calls the Numbers Band, quote, the only bar band I've ever heard that sounds unique. Blues guitar and harp and jazz horns over R&B and freeform drumming, all identified by Bob Kidney's taciturn, surreal, Dylan-esque, rather flawed vocals and song poems. Does that sound about right to you, Robert?
He thought it was, but it was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
The one person that you mentioned, punk, was pre-punk, but I mean Lou Reed. Okay.
Sure.
Lou Reed was influenced. If you listen to that record, you can hear that Lou Reed pumping. I used that quite a bit, and I borrowed a lot of stuff from a lot of different places. Like the horn parts that we used were like a la Sun Ra.
Yeah,
and Chuck Berry. I took Chuck Berry rhythms and played them backwards, and so worked very, very hard. And so did the band members, those poor guys. I mean, they had to work with me, and it was an incredible experience. And when I look back on it now, it's even more incredible.
If you look back to the very beginning when you got your first guitar, I believe, at age 16. Before that, what were you singing, sort of in the church choir? Is that sort of where you first started with music coming out of you?
Absolutely. My mother and my aunt put me in the church choir. And then I went and started singing the chorus. And I also was Hansel in the famous children's German opera. Of course, that was in the third grade. I remember Gretel's name was Ruth Ann Capes, and she gave me all my dialogue. She would whisper it to me. She told me everything I was supposed to say, and then I sang the songs, you see. And then the music teacher, Mrs. Matthias, told me I was the best Hansel she ever had, which is what she said to every child that did it. And then my mother and my aunt, of course, told me what a beautiful, wonderful voice I had. And then I heard it when I was in my 20s in a recording studio, and they were such adoring liars. I mean, really. That's
but
the
you
one
found
thing
a way.
Huh?
Yeah. You found a way to work with that voice, though. You developed that voice.
Yeah, I wore it out.
And you wore it out, and everybody around here loves it. I'll say that. You got your first guitar then. You remember your first time on stage with a band? Do you have a feeling of that? Did that do something for you?
Yeah, we have been working as 15, 60, 75. That's the only band I've ever been in. And the reason it happened was because before then, I was in the service for a very short time. I was fired. But I had been working with a friend of mine, Gary Hawk. He played harmonica and I played guitar, and we played folk rooms. And we worked quite often, and I worked quite often alone at Le Cave. But when I came back from the service, he had a band. But he left the band, and the band invited me to a rehearsal. I showed up, I thought, well, that would be fun. Get to play with Gary, played with guitar. When I showed up to the rehearsal, he had quit, and they had no frontman. They were based in Wadsworth, and he was moving to Kent. So I took over the band. The band was given to me. And then I changed the name to 156075, mainly because I thought it was Orwellian. And at the time, similar to now, it was very Orwellian. So that's why I chose the numbers rather than a name. And besides, most of the names I could think of, they all sounded like another local band. And I brought that band and we played in clubs to nobody, and then had an opportunity because of the shootings. They had an all-night thing, and the house band was getting the hell out of town. The military had just left, and it was like around July 4th, and they had a battle of the bands, a real battle of the bands for the house band position. And we showed up and played, took the job over, and that was the beginning of everything.
I'm glad you outlined the naming of the band, because everyone wonders where did the name of that band come from. But
it came from a book. It came from a book called The Blues Fell This Morning by Paul Oliver, and it's a long, involved thing. Look it up. You can go get it at the library.
And you mentioned May 4th, 1970, which was so important to so many of us and so many of your contemporaries on the scene, artists who were there, people who were at the demonstration, people who saw their friends being massacred. Chris Butler of the Waitresses, who served some time in the Numbers Band with you, said May 4th and the murders of 4 students at Kent State University in 1970 was the single driving event of my life, and also for a lot of other people in the arts. How could I find a career in a culture that tried to kill me?
Right. That's right. Jerry Casale was also at the demonstration and says very similar things.
What was the importance of that?
I wasn't there. I was living in Wadsworth at the time. I remember getting the call. I'm talking on the phone and I'm looking out the front window across the street. And my bass player is telling me that the revolution is beginning and 4 students have been slaughtered and the house across the street caught fire. That's my May 4th experience. But then when we came to Kent and started playing in Kent, we were involved in 2 huge riots. Like the next year anniversary, the town was shut down. And then again, for Move the Gym, there was a big riot in town over that because they were going to move the gym.
Right.
So we were part of that as well.
You were in the middle of so many scenes, and I didn't even realize, but I've been reading Jason Pruffer's book, Small Town, Big Music, The Outsized Influence of Kent, Ohio on the History of Rock and Roll. And he mentions, did you guys get to jam with Duke Ellington in 1974?
In a sense, Duke Ellington was playing at the university. 3 of his band members walked into the Cove and stood there for a while. And they had their, classic white shirts on and the whole thing. And they were like sticking out because nobody dressed like that except these cats. And I was going, I wonder who these gentlemen are. So they stood around and then they disappeared. And I said, geez, that didn't take long. And then 8 minutes later, I hear instruments and they came marching down the stairs playing like they do in New Orleans, and came up on stage and sat in with us for like 5 songs. It was amazing. The best one was Kansas City. They tore it up.
Well, and we're going way back, but I also understand you played with Bo Diddley in 1980 at JB's?
Several times. Yeah,
several times.
Yeah, he was there like 3 times. We played, I think, at least 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Wow. Bo Diddley, man, he's like, I didn't realize it. But as I look back, Bo Diddley was a huge influence on what I do. One of my older friends came in to see the band one time. He said, "Man, you really still doing that Bo Diddley stuff?" And I went, "Really?" And I said, then I examined. I went, "Oh, sure as hell." But I mean, Bo Diddley was a unique individual. I mean, nobody was like Bo Diddley. And he did a lot of amazing music. I remember asking him, I said, "Hey, we still do one of your songs." And he went, "Oh, really?" I went, "Yeah." I said, "We still, You Don't Love Me, You Don't Care. We still do it." He goes, "I don't remember anything about that song." It was very funny. But when he played with us, he did none of that stuff. He had a whole new bag he was into. It was very, very interesting.
Well, you guys, you made your own sound. You had your own following. You got sick in 1990. You had a kidney transplant, and the community all rallied together for you.
Absolutely, they did. Absolutely, they did. And as did my brother. My brother carried the band while I got over that surgery and then a second surgery, and then came back to work. And it was like from April to September or something like that. And he had the band and kept the band rolling and fronted it and did the whole business, until I came back.
And then you had some friends in high places when you had your van stolen of equipment. I understand that a certain guitarist stepped up and offered a reward for the return of your equipment. What happened there?
Joe Walsh, who people think I knew him. I knew him very slightly. We had some moments, but together we lived in an apartment at one time. But he offered an autographed guitar as ransom, and ended up on Good Morning America talking about it. I believe it was Good Morning America that he was doing this. And but I got the guitar back, but it was it's a long story. But I still play it. It's still the guitar I play, and that guitar was a gift from me from Freddie Salem, who was with his biggest success was with the Outlaws, and he has passed this year. And so it was heartbreaking for me, but I still play the guitar. And the last time I talked to him, which was about a year or so ago, he looked at it and said, "You still playing that goddamn old thing, man? You really ought to get a good." But it is the best sounding instrument for what I do that I have ever played. And it's just by chance. In fact, Gibson quit making them. They were so unsuccessful because they're so heavy, and they've started remaking them. I'm not sure they're one piece. This guitar, my friend, was one piece of wood. Amazing. Wow. Amazing instrument. And I still play it. It shows it. I've gone through cases, but not the guitar. No. And I got it back, and it was a real blessing. It was amazing. It's a great story, but, you got things to do.
You mentioned Joe Walsh and these apartments. You were in the mix of so much important music that's happened in this region and nationally, internationally over all these years. I want to hear about these apartments that were over the pizza shop. Who had these apartments? It was like Chris Butler and Jerry Casale, both of whom spent time in the Numbers Band. Joe Walsh had an apartment up there, and Terry Hynde. Is that right? Were they all?
Yes. Yes. They were just affordable, and they were actually rather nice. And there was a famous electronics shop there where Devo you got some of their ideas and tried out some of their equipment. Mother's Boy and Jerry knew this guy. I can't remember his name anymore. Another guy that lived there was Bob Lewis, or Robert Lewis, who I knew from junior high school, was also one of the founding members of Devo. And you know, Terry lived there. And it was an amazing place. And the whole entire city of Kent was full of that type of stuff.
Yeah, you played a lot. You were doing these regular gigs at places like the Cove until it burned down, right? And then at JB's until that burned down. What were you guys doing in these places where these clubs ended up going up in flames after you played them for a while?
Something was chasing us, Tommy. Okay, it was chasing us. It was trying to destroy us. But they didn't get it. And we're still fucking here. And I'm still fucking here looking at you. That's it. What happened was the Cove burned down. And I know that story, and I know how it burned down. The second time, I have a story about why that happened. It burned twice. The second time is another story. Then we moved to JB's, okay? And when the Cove got fire the second time, it caught JB's on fire. And then we had to leave there. Then we went through a tough summer, and we ended up at the end of the road. But we're ready. We almost bought it. And, you know, Peter Lochner, the luminary from Kent, showed up with Murray Saul in this club. We were working this dinky little place, a dinky place. And I told Peter, I said, you know, Peter, I said, I don't think we're going to be able to hold it together too much longer. And he said, well, I want you to do me a favor, Robert. I want you to do me a favor. I said, what is that? He said, I want you to do this. I want you to stick with this and do not quit for 3 more months. And then I won't say anything about it. But don't quit now, you chicken shit. Give me 3 months, please. So I did. And in 3 months, JB's reopened, and we worked there for 25 years. That's Peter Lochner. That's what I owe him. You know, and here we are.
Yeah, we all owe Peter Lochner a debt. He was so influential in this region. And again, the influences go out internationally. I love the story of you in the basement at JB's when Jerry Wexler and Warner Brothers came, because they were signing bands in the 70s. The Akron sound was hot. The Waitresses were getting signed. Devo was getting signed. And apparently Jerry Wexler, who produced Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett, which is right up your alley, right? I mean, this music is right up where you guys are living. And he comes to hear Tin Huey upstairs, but he wouldn't go down the basement to hear you guys for a couple minutes. What happened there?
How the hell do I know? I was in the goddamn basement. But I looked at Jerry Wexler, shook his hand, and I said, blah, blah, you might be interested in what we've done with rhythm and blues. And he never came down. Why he never came down? How would I know? Because he never did. I don't think, frankly, they're interested in R&B. The music business, don't get me started, my friend. I mean, they were there for the next thing. They were there for the next cashola. They were going to follow the money. You know what I'm saying? That's it.
Yeah.
But I had no money. I had nothing to give them. They were going to get nothing from me, okay? Because I don't get that. You know, nobody owns me. Nobody.
You made good friends with Anton Fear.
You're putting me in a bad place, man.
No, you're in the place you
look
want to be,
great.
Robert.
You look great.
You look great as well, my friend. You look fabulous. I know you were friends with Anton Fear and the Golden
Sure.
Palominos, and they
Yes.
covered a number of your songs, right? And I was, again, amazed to find the song of yours, Animal Speaks, that they did with two vocalists that just blow my mind, Johnny Lydon, Johnny Rotten of the Sex Pistols, and
Right.
Jack Bruce of Cream.
Right.
Each of them did a version singing your lyrics for the song Animal Speaks. What was
Right.
that like? And then you toured, didn't you, on and off with the Golden Palominos for a while?
Well, let's back up. We opened for the Golden Palominos when they were touring up with that record. And the bass player was Jack Bruce. And we played at the Peabody's Down Under. It was either that or back when it was at the Pirates Cove. I don't remember which. So we played, our band opened. And then I was standing in the audience. And of course, I've been upstairs and talked with Jack Bruce and so on and so forth. How could you not do that? You know what I mean? So, but I'm standing in the audience and they got up on stage. Now, Jack was getting up on stage and he had a tumbler full of, I don't remember, but shish and some type of, he used to drink. They were all drinking this cognac. I don't remember the name. But anyway, he downed this glass of cognac. There probably was like 4 fingers of cognac in this tumbler and took the stage. And the first time in my life I'd ever heard anyone else play any of my music, it was Animal Speaks coming off the stage being sung by Jack Bruce. What an honor, you know? And yeah, I toured with the Golden Palominos. We toured the States. It was not a long tour. And did other recordings with Anton over the years after that. But the other person I know you're probably getting to is David Thomas. Because David did so much for this band that it's just, it's hard to encapsulate it all. First with one time we opened at the Agora, the old one, and we were supposed to be opening for John Lee, but he didn't make it. Back then he wasn't making it. And so we played. When I got off the stage, this guy back then in this like oversized, I used to call Applejack hats or Big Apple hats. It was immense. It was like, it was like the size of a pizza. And he comes up and he goes, "Hey man, there's somebody you got to meet. You got to meet this guy." And I said, okay. I took him over and he took me over to the the Statue of Liberty. This huge man, and introduced himself. He goes, "My name is Crocus Behemoth." And that's how I met David Thomas. And then him and Tony Mamoli always used to, but the bass player from the original group, they'd always come down, see the band. And then that developed into a whole, long story of different things. I mean, he was the first guy to ever record the band. He put us on a 45, Here in the Life, and It's an Imagination. And then later on, we did an album with him, one of the best. It's called Inward City. He took us to England. He took my brother and I to England, and we played in the Queen Elizabeth Hall in a theater piece, musical theater piece he put together called Mirror Man. Then we toured England with that show. Then we came back and played again with this big show he did with lots of different bands, MC5 and some other bands, at the Royal Festival Hall. They put us up in London for 5 days to play 45 minutes at the Royal Festival Hall, which is like Lincoln Center in London. This is what this man did.
Yeah.
For and myself. And
yeah.
And it goes on. But I mean, that's the simplest story.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hearthen Records that he had, his label, released a couple of your records, and he was kind of always there for you guys, always a big supporter.
And so was
And
I'm sorry, I mean to
no,
interrupt.
but I'm saying he found a way to work with what you had going on, which, he was likewise doing his own very unique thing that no one else
Right,
could quite match. And yet he found a way to work with the Numbers Band.
right. Well, he loved the music, and as I was going to say, his other partner, John Thompson, who was known as Johnny Drumette, he was right there. So,
Talk about the longevity of the band, the economy in this region over the past 55 years that you've been around and longer has not been as strong as it used to be. And so the people coming up in it had to really dig down deep and had to really mean it. And they have to work a little bit harder to make it happen. And no one's worked harder, Robert, than you and the Numbers Band over the years. No one's worked harder. And you're still standing. Congratulations.
well, we're standing because of the people. They are our patrons. They are, there are supporters. This is the audience, okay? Patrons in the sense they take money out of their pocket and put it out there, pay for alcohol and food and the people that work in the restaurants and the clubs we play in. They pay our salaries. They're there and they're very demanding. They're not fans. Fans comes from the term fanatic. They're not followers. Anybody that knows this music they wouldn't be following anything. The people who like this music are not followers, but they are supporters. And then you got Jason here, who he's one of the reasons we're in business. And the other two people that are very important are Clint Alguire and Bill Watson, the bass and drums, the rhythm section. If they were not there, we would not be speaking. They carry the band to this point. 5 years and the years before that got us to 50. Now we're at 55 because of them and because of the people that come. That's why we're here. And they expect us to bring it to the stage. I know that's the so-called cliche by the tyrants of scrutiny, but I mean, it is. We bring it to the stage and we leave it in the stage. And we have new songs and they expect it. They expect new material. They expect risk from this band. They expect it. We give it. And I think that's why we're still here.
Oh, man. Talk about your upcoming documentary that Jason Pruffer is just finishing up now. I don't want to steal any thunder, but I know he's been working hard on this for like 12 years or something. What's going on with this big documentary on the history of the Numbers Band?
We're looking at the exit. We're looking at the exit. I mean, we can't stop talking about it because it's so complex. All right. But at this point, it's almost 2.5 hours long. Okay. And it's wonderful. His work is wonderful. And, and it's like we work together and, he beats me up and I say, okay. And we go through this thing and it's become a real wonderful, enjoyable experience. But we are looking at the exit. We're just finishing up 3 huge interviews, one with Chris Butler, one with Terry, and one with my brother. And of course, he will be filming this next show. It's not going to be, it won't be in the documentary. It's going to be something else. But so it's closing in, and I'm seeing the exit. It's been a long time, but I mean, went through COVID. There's, we got stopped, we got stalled again, it gets started again, and so forth. And but I'm very excited about it, and I think it won't be too much longer.
Well, talk about this show on Saturday, March 8th at the Kent Stage, your 55th anniversary celebration concert. What can we expect besides exactly what we expect from the Numbers Band?
Well, you better get what we have. We walk on the stage and we play in the moment. That's what I demand. And the people that work with me, unfortunately, know this. And it's demanding. I don't think, to be frank, the show that we're going to be doing is not going to be like the other four, because I changed the way I'm looking at this. We're not having a long string of band members from the past coming out and performing. I kind of axed that because I want to feature the people like I was speaking of, Bill and Clint, and the music we're doing. We're looking to the future now. Okay, this show is about the future. However, Chris Butler and Mike Stacy will be there. Why? Why those two? Because over the last year, we've had some crises. Because Bill, the bass player, Bill Watson, got COVID, and we had a show coming up. And Chris Butler walked in, rehearsed with me at my home, and walked on that stage and kicked ass. And Mike Stacy was there to help out. And they've come together for me in the past when my brother had a problem. And Chris, and another guy who won't be there was Frank Casamento. Clint Alguire, my drummer guy, had some problems. Frank Casamento flew from Chicago and came in and played like he had never left the stage. These are the people that got us to the 55th. And they are the people that we're going to tribute the show to. Always the audience first. These two gentlemen, Chris Butler and Mike Stacy, who stepped up for us, didn't let the club owners down. I mean, these guys, a lot of band leaders don't like club owners. Well, I don't have a problem with club owners. You got to realize we're in a business here. There's a business, like Groucho Marx said. There's show and business. Little show, big business. Okay? And there's a business aspect. And if you respect them, you get respect. And so I didn't want to let them down. Chris understood that. Mike understood that. They came in and we played a couple of times. We did a couple of great shows. Well, that's why they're there. That's why they're there. And we are going to have 2 new songs. I hope to have at least 2 new ones finished. One of them is, the other one, we're very close. And we have also other new material that we wrote over the last year or so. These songs are not familiar to the people that will be coming. And we're also going to hit back and touch on some of the old ones, of course. And so that's the story, but there's not going to be, because the last time for the 50th, there were so many people that wanted to play, I ran out of energy. And then my brother got screwed because he didn't get enough. He writes his own material. He's a great performer in his own right. He steps up and he takes over, but he didn't get to do what I felt was enough material. I'm not going to let that happen again. That will not happen. So the other gentlemen, they had 4 years. They had 4 times to sit in. It's not going to happen this time. It won't happen. I'm getting the calls,
Yeah, well, we are super excited about this show, Saturday, March 8th, the Kent Stage. I just want to leave you with a line from one of your own songs.
Oh.
Because it seems to me, again, maybe I'm projecting here, but maybe this is you talking about yourself. The line goes like this: he was just a man who learned to live without regrets.
Well, I'm afraid you hit the nail on the head there. I have regrets. You know, that was very popular when I was young. I don't have any regrets. Now it's, you should let that go. No, you shouldn't let it go. You shouldn't let it go. I carry my baggage. You know, that's it. I can go on because you're getting ready to have your dinner. Some shit.
I could talk to you all night long, Robert. It is fascinating. And we could listen to you guys play forever. I think your fans, your friends, your supporters, as you call them in this region, have shown you that you could just basically do about anything. You come out on stage and we want to see you. We want to see the band. And we want to hear what you have to say. So we can't wait to see you on Saturday, March 8th at the Kent stage. I thank you so much for taking time here today and doing this little video interview for us. And let's not let it be another 5 years, okay, before we talk again.
Well, I really appreciate it, man. And you know, I've told you before, and I'll say it here. I think you're a great soul. And that interview we did before the 50th is still my favorite.
That means a lot. It really does, Robert. Thank you so much. And have some fun on Saturday, March 8th. We will see you there.
It's never fun. If it was fun, I wouldn't be there.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's Thomas Mulready from Cool Cleveland. Have a great week in Cool Cleveland.
Thank you so much.